Hello, Econ 115 students. Welcome to our chapter 4. In this chapter, we'll focus on consumer demand. So let's first begin with the learning objectives in chapter Go. So the first learning objective is for you to learn why the demand curve is downward sloping. In chapter 3, we already know that price and quantity demand they are negatively related, right? But in this chapter, we'd like to dig a little bit more about why it is downward sloping. Then we'll move on to talk about price elasticity of demand. And then we'll like to talk about the relationship between price elasticity and the total revenue. And then we'll like to talk about some factors that might influence the degree of price elasticity of demand. And finally, we'll like to answer the question about how advertising affects consumer demand. So the goal of this chapter is actually help you to understand or analyze how consumers' behavior in the market. Now, in order to ask the first question, why demand curve is downward sloping, we should begin with the utility theory. Okay, so utility. The goal of the consumer, as far as we know, is to maximize the total utility given the price of the goods and services and the income. Okay, so the total utility actually is the amount of the satisfaction that you can obtain from the entire consumption of the goods and services. There is another concept to measuring satisfaction, and that is marginal utility. Margin, I have to say, is a very important word in economy. Okay, so margin. Margin in economy means one more. Marginal utility is the satisfaction obtained by consuming one additional unit of the good or services. If you buy one more good or service, what's the additional utility you will obtain? Okay, this is what we call marginal utility. There is an important law regarding to marginal utility that is diminishing marginal utility. Okay, diminishing marginal utility. It describes the satisfaction or decline as more of those products consumed in a given period of time. So you can think about the example like, okay, you are very hungry, and then if you eat the first slice of a pizza, okay, if you eat the first slice of a pizza, if you're very hungry and then you eat the first slice of a pizza, I bet your satisfaction is pretty large, right? If you continue to eat the second slice of pizza, it's still pretty good, right? And if you continue to eat the third slice of pizza, I believe your satisfaction is still increasing, but it will not as large as the first one bring to you, right? If we assume that eating three slices of pizza, okay, eating those three of pizzas, you are already full. But you decided like, maybe I can eat one more, right? Eat one more slice of pizza. Actually, this fourth slice of pizza, the marginal utility is smaller than the third one, right? And if you keep continue, if you keep to eating those pizzas, and then to finish the whole pizzas, I believe the satisfaction from the fifth pizzas was smaller than the fourth one, especially than the maybe the very beginning, the first one, right? So this is the law of the diminishing marginal utility. It will tell you that the additional satisfaction from consuming one more unit of the goods would decline in a given period of time. So you can see this is two graph, okay? On the left hand side, it shows the total utility, okay, the total utility. And then on the left hand side, it shows the marginal utility. You can see the total utility, it will first increase until reach the maximum, right? Until reach the maximum, maybe until reach the maximum when you eat the third slice of a pizza. And then it will decline. It will decline because you are too full. If you still continue eating the pizzas, then those pizzas will not that you feel satisfactory, right? So you can see as the total utilities increase first, reach the maximum, and then it will decline. You can also see the graph from the right hand side, marginal utility. You can see the marginal utility declines as one more as you have more of those products, right? So marginal utility also could be negative because when you really full and then you keep continue eating the pizzas, actually maybe you'll feel a little bit disgusting, right? You want to throw out the pizzas if you eat too much. This is why the marginal utility will decline as you have more more of those products. Okay? So we can see each unit will provide utility to the consumer, and the total utility is the sum of the marginal utility. We also notice the marginal utility diminishing as more is consumed. Diminishing as more is consumed. So let's just make a little bit summary about utility. We talk about utility is a subjective measure and it varies from one person to another. There is no just one way to measure utility, okay? So utility is not absolute measure because individuals' perception of satisfaction different and everyone's preferences also different. Diminishing marginal utility is a universal experience. Even we know everyone has their own preferences. Everyone has their own different everyone has their own different perception about satisfaction. However, the law of the diminishing utility is universal. And how does marginal utility can relate it to the demand curve? Because marginal utility will relate it to consumers' willingness to pay. You can think about for the first slice of a pizza, maybe when you're very hungry, you would like to pay $2 for that slice of pizza. For the second slice of a pizza, you might just want to pay $1, right? And then for the third slice of pizza, what you would like to pay, maybe just 50 cents. And how about the fourth one? The fourth one, actually, maybe you just need to pay 10 cents because this is your willingness to pay, right? And then you can see as you consume more, the willingness to pay decline, right? The willingness to pay decline because of marginal utility decline. And this is why it makes our demand curve is downward sloping. So you can see as you have more of those products, the willingness to pay for those products decrease, right? So this is from another perspective to explain why the demand curve is downward sloping. You can see the diminishing marginal utility diminishing marginal utility measures the willingness to pay the willingness to pay also makes the willingness to pay also decrease makes the willingness to pay also decrease as you have more units, right? More quantity of the goods and services. And this is why the demand curve is downward sloping. Okay, now let's move on to the second part, talking about price elasticity of demand. So price elasticity of demand, it measures how sensitive consumers response to the price change of the product. Okay, so the elasticity of demand measures the responsiveness of consumers' purchases to the change in price. How consumers sensitive to the price change. Once this responsiveness is measured, then the change in revenue can be understood. So we will talk about this later, how price elasticity related to the total revenue. We would like to say that the price elasticity of demand actually equal to the percentage change in quantity demand divide the percentage change in price. So here is the formula for you to compute it. We have price elasticity of demand, always use E to represent, okay? E here represents the price elasticity of demand. It will equal percentage change. Change, I will use the delta, okay, the small triangle to measure percentage change in quantity demand divide the percentage change in price, okay? This is the way that we can compute the price elasticity. Let's look at one example. Suppose now the price increased by 20%, and then it caused the quantity demand decrease by 10%. Okay, from this one, you can already know that the percentage change in quantity demand actually is positive or negative. Decrease by 10%, so it should be negative 10%, right? And then the percentage change in price is 20% because price increased by 20%. So from here, can you compute the elasticity? The price elasticity will equal negative 10% divide 20%, right? And this is negative zero point 0.5. You know this is negative zero point 0.5, but what you nearly need to figure out is what's the economic implication of this zero point zero 0.05, sorry, zero point 0.5 of this zero point 0.5. So it means that 1% increase in price would result in 0.5% decrease in quantity demand. Okay, so this is the economic implication about this zero point zero 0.05, so zero point 0.5. And in order for easier comparison, okay, in order for easier comparison, most of the time we will just use the absolute value, okay? Most of the time we'll just use the absolute value. We know that price and quantity demand, they are negatively related, right? So this price elasticity should be negative. This price elasticity here should be negative. However, in order to easier compare, most of the time when we talk about price elasticity of demand, we will just use the absolute value. So what I just say, now the price elasticity will equal zero point 0.5. So this zero point 0.5 means 1% increase in price would make the quantity demand decrease by 0.5%. And we know that all goods can be characterized on whether consumers are responsive to price changes or not. Consumers would maybe very sensitive to price change to some products. Maybe they will just feel it's okay, even the product price changes, right? So all of those goods and services can be categorized into different price elasticity category. So for example, like this rubber band in my hand, okay? If I stretch it, okay? If I pull it, it just stretches, right? When I pull more, it stretch more, right? So this one I would say is very sensitive to my strength. This rubber band is very sensitive to my strength, right? So I would like to say this rubber band is very elastic, very elastic. And you can see this is just a string, right? If I pull it, it doesn't stretch, right? If I pull it, it doesn't stretch. That means this type of the string actually is not sensitive to my strength. And this can also measures for some consumers. They are not sensitive to the price change, not sensitive to price change. So let's see if the price elasticity, okay, the absolute value, okay, if the price elasticity larger than one, we said those products consumers are very sensitive to price change, like hamburgers, like a pancake. Because if hamburgers price changes, consumers can easily switch to buy other goods, right? So that's what we would say the price elasticity of hamburger is very elastic. There are some products that are unitary elastic, okay? And there is an example in unitary elastic will become from the education. And then there are some products, their price elasticity is really inelastic. Inelastic means consumers are not sensitive to price change. Even if price increase, consumers still need to buy it. And we also have this type of a product like the gas price. Even a gas price increase in the short term, okay, in the short term, we still need to go to a gas station and fill our tank. So this is what I say, no matter how the price changes, consumers still need to buy those products. So those products, their price elasticity was very inelastic. And also give you some examples about different type of the elasticity. You can see there are some products, their price elasticity are really elastic, like what I just talked about, pancake, steak, organic food, okay? And then there are also some products, their elasticity is unitary, like private education. Also, there are some products, their price elasticity is really inelastic, like gas price in the short run, okay? And then like the electricity price, utility bills that you need to pay, right? Now, we already know the price elasticity. Then we'll move on to talk about what's the relationship between price elasticity and the total revenue. So here, let's look at how we compute the revenue. So revenue will just equal price times quantity, right? P times Q. And then we know the price elasticity of demand equal percentage change in quantity demand divided percentage change in price, right? So if that will be the case, okay? So if demand is elastic means E here were larger than 1, right? We have price elasticity larger than 1. Price elasticity larger than 1, we can see from this formula, the numerator the numerator should be larger than denominator, right? The numerator here should be larger than the denominator, right? Because of price elasticity, already larger than 1, and then that will make our numerator here were larger than denominator, okay? So we would like to say, if you have this type of the product, price is really elastic, and then you decided to increase the price, then decrease in the revenue from lower quantity, is greater than increasing revenue from higher price. So the revenue will decrease, which means if you have this type of products, very sensitive to price change, and then you decided to increase the price, the revenue that you gain from increasing price cannot recover for the revenue due to the fewer quantity you being sold. Okay, so increase the price will actually make your total revenue decrease. Let me show you this example. Let me show the example. Okay. So you can see for this example, we have the price equal $200, and then at that $200 we can sold 12 units. Okay, so that will make, here I'll just write down here, okay, when price equal 200, and then you can sell 12 units, which means the total revenue here should equal 24,000. You just use 2,000 times 12, right? You can get the total revenue equal 2,400. Okay, sorry, 2,400. That also will be displayed by the blue rectangular, okay, on the graph. So that blue rectangular on the graph will represent for the total revenue. Then we assume the price increased to 250. So when price increased to 250, actually you can only sell 8 units. Okay, you can only sell 8 units. So here you can also compute the new total revenue will equal 250 times 8, right? Which will equal $2,000. Okay, equal $2,000. And then that will be represent, okay? That will be represent in the graph as well, okay? So I will just draw the graph here. Price, quantity, $200, okay? This is $200. And then we have 12 units. So first, this part will represent our total revenue, right, from our first case. And then when the price increased to $250, okay, when the price increased to $250, we can only sell 8 units. So now this is the new revenue. This is the new total revenue in this rectangular, okay, represents for the new revenue. You can imagine quantity actually decreased, right? Quantity decreased by 4 units, right? Quantity decreased by 4 units. And this part, what measures the total revenue, the loss in total revenue due to the lower quantity being sold, right? So this part represents the loss, okay? I'll put negative here, okay? The loss in total revenue due to the fewer, due to the change in quality demand, right? Due to the change in quality demand, right? And this part will represent the gains. This will be, I put the positive sign, okay? The gains in total revenue due to higher price. Due to the higher price. And then you can see from this graph, actually, the loss in total revenue is larger than the gains in total revenue, right? So the gains in total revenue due to the higher price cannot offset the loss in total revenue due to the lower quantity demand. And that is why if you have this type of the product, increasing price, increasing price, you can see increasing price from 200 to 250 actually is not a good strategy because your total revenue will decrease. So if you have this product, the good strategy for you to have more revenue is cutting price, cutting price, okay? So here I would like to say when demand is elastic, a price increase will cause the total revenue. You can see a price increase will cause the total revenue decrease, cause total revenue decrease. So that would be the first case. Let's look at another one. Still talk about the total revenue, okay? Still talk about total revenue. But now we will move on to the second case. We know that total revenue still equal price times quantity demand, right? So use the price times the quantity being sold that we can get the total revenue. And then we also know that price elasticity, okay? The price elasticity, as usual, okay, it will equal percentage change in quantity demand divide percentage change in price. So if now we have the products, okay, the price elasticity less than 1. We have the price elasticity less than 1, which means the percentage change in quantity demand, okay, in numerator here should be smaller, okay, should be smaller than percentage change in price, right? Because of the whole thing here, price that is less than 1, so we have the numerator should be less than denominator, okay? We would like to say if now we still decided to increase the price, decreasing revenue from lower Q, decreasing revenue from lower Q actually is smaller than increase in revenue from a higher P. So revenue will increase, which means if you have this type of products like a gas, like electricity, like the internet service provider, increase the price is the good strategy for you to have more revenue because consumers, they are not sensitive to price change. Okay, so let's see this part from a graph as well. Still at the beginning, okay, we have the price equal $200, okay, per product, and then you can sell 12 units, which means the total revenue here will equal 2400, right? But now you decided to increase the price to 250. As consumers are not sensitive to price change, you can still sell 10 units, which means now the total revenue will equal 2500. So you can see if now consumers are not sensitive to price change, increase the price actually is a good strategy for you to have a higher revenue. We can also show this part through a graph. This is the price, this is the quantity, right? Originally, we have price at $200, right? And then we have the quantity at 12. So here we can have the total revenue, $200 times 12 units, right? And if now the price increased to 250, we know consumers are not sensitive to price change. So the total revenue just, the total quantity, okay, just decrease to 10, okay, just decrease 10. Then you can see this part. From this part, we notice the quantity decrease, right? So this area will measures the change in revenue. This is negative because the quantity decreased. The change in revenue due to the lower quantity demand, right? However, for each unit you can sell, now you have a higher price. So this area will measures the change in revenue. This should be positive because for each unit you sell, you can charge $250. The change in revenue due to higher price, right? Due to higher price. So you can see the change in revenue due to higher price is larger than the decrease in revenue due to the lower Q. So the total revenue finally increase, right? In case here, we would like to say when demand is inelastic, price increase will cause the revenue to increase. Okay. Now let's look at this part. Will just summarize. Okay, what we just learned. Total revenue changes according to the price elasticity of demand. We know that this part will explain why some producers cannot charge higher prices. Why some producers cannot charge higher prices. For McDonald's, he will not charge $10 per cheeseburger, right? Because if it increased the cheeseburger's price, consumers can easily to find alternatives, and then the revenue for McDonald's would decrease dramatically, I guess. So here you can say if now the product is really elastic demand, increase the price will make the revenue decrease. However, decrease the price, then you can attract more consumers, right? And then that will make your revenue increase. If you have unitary products, then increase the pricing strategy or decrease the price strategy will not make you have any changes in the revenue. If you have the product that demand is inelastic, then increase the price is a good strategy for you to have more revenue. Okay. Now let's look at the other like some demand inference. Okay, some factors that might also affect a price elasticity. The first one is if this product is necessary or a luxury. So, for example, paper tissues. Paper tissues is necessary in our daily life, right? So if paper tissue price increase, consumers still need to buy the paper tissues, right? For the luxuries, maybe like traveling, it's not like necessary, okay, for a certain period of time. So we can treat that part as a luxury. We also need to talk about the availability of substitutes. So, for example, we know that pancake can have a lot of substitutes, right? We can switch to eat burger, we can switch to eat maybe jello, etc. But you can think about another product like sunscreen, sunscreen or gas. Those products they have very few substitutes. So we would like to say those availability of substitutes will definitely affect the price elasticity of demand. Another one is price relative to income. Okay, so let's look at other price elasticity. We already finished price elasticity of demand, but there are also two important elasticities I hope you can understand. The first one is cross price elasticity. Cross price elasticity related to the related goods prices. And then another one is income elasticity. So let's first begin with cross price elasticity. So cross price elasticity depending on the relationship between the goods. Two relationship, okay, majority we talk about two relationship. The first one is complements. So complements like things that always be used together or eaten together. You can think about peanut butter and jelly, cream cheese and bagel. Okay, so in economy, we would like to say quantity of a complementary goods decreases as price of the related good increases. You might feel a little bit hard to understand, right? Just give you one example. Think about peanut butter and jelly. Okay, so I'll just write it down here. Okay, if we have price of peanut butter, okay, I use B here represents peanut butter. If price of the peanut butter increase, consumers' first reaction, the direct reaction is decrease the quantity demand of peanut butter, right? Peanut butter price increase, consumers buy fewer peanut butter. Because peanut butter and jelly always be eaten together, right? So it will have some indirect influence in demand of jello or jelly. Okay, so because of peanut butter's quantity demand decrease, consumers will also buy fewer jelly. So you can see this is why the statement says, okay, quantity of a complementary goods, okay, quantity of the complementary goods decrease as the price of the related goods increases. Okay, so this will just show you the relationship between peanut butter and jelly. They are complements. And another one comes from substitutes. Quantity of a substitute good increases as price of the related goods increases. So also give you one example, it will be easy to understand this statement. Think about Coke and Pepsi. So Coke and Pepsi will always use them as a substitutes. Okay, so let's see if now the price of Coke increase. Price of Coke increase, consumers' first reaction. First reaction will be decrease the quantity demand of Coke. Coke price increase, the consumption of Coke decrease. And then because of Coke and Pepsi, they are substitutes. So it will also has indirect impact on the demand of Pepsi. So Pepsi's demand will increase, right? And this is why in this statement it says quantity of substitutes. Quantity of substitutes will increase if price of the related goods increase, right? So this will reflect they are substitutes, okay? So they are substitutes. Price of one related goods and and the demand of another goods, they are positively related. However, for complements, price of one good and the price of the related goods and the quantity and the demand of another goods, okay, they are negatively related. This negatively related and these parts they're positively related. Okay, so this is positively related. So this is the cross price. This one sometimes in some textbook it's called cross price elasticity. Cross price elasticity. Another one comes from income elasticity. So income elasticity, it talk about the demand of the goods related to consumer income. There are some goods, if your income increase, you would like to buy more. But there are also some goods, once your income increase, you would like to buy fewer. Think about those goods in your daily life. Like the organic foods, okay, organic foods. If my income increase, I would like to buy more organic foods, right? So income increase, buy more organic foods. They are positively related. So we call this type of the goods normal goods. Normal goods. Income increase, you buy more of those products. Normal goods. There are also some products, once your income increase, you would like to buy fewer, like instant noodle, like frozen pizza. If my income increase, I can afford to buy more like a fresh made pizza. So I will reduce the quantity of the frozen pizza that I purchased, right? So those goods we're referring to inferior goods. As income increase, some goods and services actually they are purchased less. Those goods and services we call them as inferior goods. Okay, so you can see demand of the inferior goods negatively related to income. All right, the last question of this chapter, we would like to talk about advertising. Does advertising change our behavior? Think about it. So we know that market try to shift consumers' demand curve rightwards by influencing their taste for goods. And advertising is one way to do that. Because advertising, some of them are informative. You can find out, oh, those goods, they might be useful in my life. So I would like to buy it, right? But there are some advertising that are persuasive. Maybe it is just advertised by one of your favorite movie star. Then you say, oh, wow, it's my favorite. I'm a huge fan of that person. So if he or she made a advertising of some products, I will buy for that. So those advertising, we treat them as persuasive. So the objective of advertising is to change the choice, change consumers' preferences. And one of the favorite target of advertiser is our sense of insecurity. Brand images are developed to give consumers a sense of identity. Okay? Therefore, based on belief and is typically not about informing the public. Probably will based on most of their advertising is more like persuasive rather than informative. And it will definitely change. It will definitely change their demand curve. Okay, so let me draw this demand curve by their advertising. So before you can see without advertising, okay? Without advertising, we have the demand curve like this way. So this is the price, this is the quantity. So before advertising, maybe our demand curve is like this way. However, with advertising, it might persuade consumers to buy more of those products, right? So first, the demand curve will shift to the right-hand side. But it's not the end of the story. Consumers can also build up their brand loyalty because of their advertising. Therefore, if this demand curve will shift to the right-hand side, and then it will also become steep. The slope here will also become steeper. The slope becomes steeper is because of now the consumers will become less sensitive to the price change because they also already built up the brand loyalty from their advertising. So we would like to say advertising will increase the brand loyalty, cause the demand to become less elastic, less elastic. So we can see not only the demand curve will shift to the right hand side, it will also become steep. Now, let's just summarize what we have learned in this chapter. First, we will explain why demand curve is downward sloping from utility theory. Because of marginal utility decrease, so the willingness to pay from consumers also decrease. We also describe the price elasticity of demand and talk about how to compute it. We also learn the relationship between price elasticity and the total revenue, right? Different price elasticity increase or decrease the price will bring the different changes in total revenue. And then we also talk about some factors that might affect price elasticity, including if this product is necessary or not, if this product has a lot of alternatives or not. And then we also introduce cross-price elasticity and income elasticity. At the end, we talk about how advertising affects consumer demand. Thank you so much.